For many of us, that is a terrifying sound we will never hear in real life. Because that is the sound of prison bars closing. The sound of life shutting behind you, of being locked away in a dark, brutal world. It's a world Andre Norman knows all too well. He heard it for himself not long after a judge sentenced him to jail for 100 years. Once there, Andre did what he could to survive in maximum security, meeting violence with more violence, rising to the top of the food chain as a leader of the cruel gang of inmates. And for that, he had to serve 2 years of his sentence locked away in solitary confinement. But it was in that solitude, alone for 2 whole years, in the dark, that Andre finally confronted the choices he'd made in his life, realizing he had to make a change. And from then on, Andre resolved that when he got out, he would turn things around. And for the next 8 years, that's exactly what he did. For 20 hours a day, Andre worked at making this dream a reality. He attended anger management that changed his interactions with other inmates. He sat in for life and spiritual counseling. He taught himself to read and understand the law, and eventually won an appeal, armed with a GED and a dream. After serving only 14 years, Andre walked out a free man, a changed man. Since then, he's done everything he could to help others confront their own demons. And not too long ago, he was even able to revisit his dark past by taking some 40 men and women, doctors, lawyers, hotel owners, writers, on a tour of one such prison in Tennessee, the worst in the state, walking them through the facilities, showing them several units with 120 men packed into each one, and quite honestly, reliving his own nightmare. Today, Andre is taking us all on that tour. So buckle up and settle in today on the Gratitudeology Podcast.
Will you walk through the fire? Would you ride through the storm? Will you walk on a wire? Will you save me if I fall? Will you break through the madness? Set us down where we're safe. I'll be right here waiting till you find me again.
Andre Norman, thank you for being here. I'm seated on the couch in my little pink office in Pennsylvania, staring at my computer screen at the one and only Andre Norman. His presence is larger than life, and his smile lights up the screen. Typically, I do all of my interviews for this podcast in person, but Andre is such a sought-after speaker that he's on the road most of the year. So if I wanted to chat with him, it had to be on Zoom. So I jumped at the chance. It's hard to believe that this man, this big smiling man with the even bigger smiling personality, was once a hardened prisoner. And it all started during his younger days growing up in Boston. I know you grew up in Boston and you have really an incredible story, so I'm going to let you tell it.
Well, my mom married a high school sweetheart, and she had 2 kids. Husband, Rob Banks. He goes to prison early, and while he's in prison, she meets my dad, local drug dealer, local hustler. She has 4 more kids. Now you got mom, dad, 6 kids. Everything's great, except for my dad had a habit of beating my mom. So you're a little kid, and my father's 6'6", 300 pounds, size 18 shoe. It was never a fair fight. And in the 70s, it wasn't called domestic violence. It was called handling your household. So it's normal to me that my dad beats my mom and it's chaos, and you come home and it's just, you never know what it's going to be. I didn't grow up in your house. I didn't know that mom didn't get punched in the face. I didn't grow up in your house. I didn't know mom gets slapped to the floor or dad yells at the kids. it became normal to me. And when I got old enough to go to school, I raced to school. It was phenomenal. You go to school, it's like a building full of kids. You could just play all day. And I'd go to school and I'd play all day and I'd come home missing a jacket or missing some shoes. My mother like, where's your jacket at? I'm like, I had a great day, Mom. Don't worry about it. I was a kid that lost clothes. And if I didn't lose clothes, I didn't have fun. And I couldn't wait to go to school because there was so many kids there to play with. And I would come home. Some days, Mom would greet you with cookies. Some days, Mom's crying because she has a black eye. But you just got used to that. That was a normal thing. It wasn't different anymore. And one day we're coming home from school, and the kids started throwing rocks at our bus and calling us niggas. And I didn't understand it. I'm like in the first grade. Yeah, I'm just like on the floor trying to duck the glass and the rocks. And when we get home, I went to my dad. I said, Dad, who are these people? Because I'd never technically met white people before. I said, why are they throwing rocks at me? Because nobody's ever thrown rocks at me before. I said, what do these names mean? Nobody's ever said these names to me. What do they mean? And he looked at me and I looked at him and he walked away. He left me as an 8-year-old to process the busing crisis in Boston in the 70s.
So is this something that was happening across Boston, like that
throughout the city?
Schools in certain neighborhoods were getting, the buses were attacked?
Yes.
These people felt their rights had been abridged. They were frustrated. There was not a black face in the crowd, as had been the case in previous circumstances. This was a white protest, with white Americans clinging to their patriotism. Following the Pledge of Allegiance, there was God Bless America. And then a yellow bus rolled up and marches posing as members.
They had a thing where they make black kids go to white schools and vice versa, and the whole city revolted, and they were stoning the buses. If you go put busing crisis Boston, is video for days of kids throwing rocks at buses, and it was just what we went through at the time. And my dad didn't know how to explain it to me. But I didn't find out until I was an adult that my dad grew up in a town called Petersburg, Virginia, in the 40s, and kids used to throw rocks names at them. And my grandfather told him that's just the way it was. So when it happened to his kids, he was devastated because he had never gotten over his own trauma. Now it's happening to his kids. So he didn't know how to help me process. So he left me to process it by myself. And at 9 years old, 8 years old, I don't process well. And then one day the rock started, one day the rock stopped. For my mother, one day the beating started, one day the beating stopped. I came home from school and Dad's gone. She put him out, he left, or whatever it was, but Dad's gone. And single mom, 6 kids living in the city. You know the story. We bounce around, find a new place to live, and I go to a new school, and they find out I'm illiterate. Not a problem back then. They said, we have a thing called the dummy class. And they put me at the end of the room, end of the hall, close the door. It was me, Melvin, and Thaddeus in the dummy class. And we didn't do anything all day but hang out. One day my dummy teacher didn't come to school, so they split us up and put us in regular classrooms. And Miss Oliver came to me and she told me to sit down. I'm jumping around playing. And I just kept, sit down, Andre. I said, I'm from the dummy class. What's the problem? And she grabbed me in my collar and she slammed me in a chair. And she went to tell me, you're not a dummy. When she raised her hand, I had always known I was going to get hit just like my mom. And the look on my face was, today's my day. And she said, I'm not going to hit you, Andre. I said, I know I'm going to get hit now because I heard that before. And she saw me and she saw the terror in my face and the fear. And then she did something that nobody's ever done for me that's been greater. She took me out of the dummy class and she put me in her class. And at first I did whatever she said to do because I thought she was going to hit me still. Then I should do what she said do because she was consistently showing up for me. And before long, I used to run off that bus because Miss Oliver loved me. She said, you're not a dummy, you just learn differently. And I'm going to teach you your learning style. And she took the time to find out how I understand and ingest information, and she taught me. And lo and behold, I wasn't a dummy. And at the end of the 3rd grade, she said, this is your gift, don't let anybody take it from you. And I went on from there, and life was great. 4th grade, 5th grade, get to middle school with the big kids. The meanest people on planet Earth are 6th graders. There's no other species of people that are meaner than 6th graders collectively. I got there, I was so excited, and the kids just started making fun of me because I had old clothes on, I had dirty socks on, I didn't have the right jacket, I had the right haircut, the right bag, and I was a free lunch. They just giving me the business. Then I didn't want to go to school anymore. Told my mother these kids are mean, they're evil, they're awful. She made me go to school. Then I went through the line one day to get cafeteria, and I'm a free lunch kid. So the lady would check my name off every day. I came through the line one day and there was cake on the line. I'm a cake kid, so I grabbed some cake. I get to the end of the line and the lunch mom said, that's 25 cents for the cake. I said, what are you talking about? It's on the line. She said, no, we sell that cake. So I ain't got 25 cents. She said, well, put it back. Free lunch kid, ain't got a quarter, dirty socks. He ain't cool. I hated school. My buddy Tyrone came to me and said, Dre, we can go to the park after school and make some money. I said, anything to get out of this mess. So we would go to the park after school. The older kids would have us sit on a rock, and they would sell weed to whoever. When the weed packages got low, they'd say, Andre. And I'd run across the street, get a bundle of marijuana bags, come back and hand them the bag, and I'd sit on the rock. Then Tyrone would run, and we'd run back and forth and get bags of weed for them. That was my job, just to run across the street, get a bundle of weed, maybe 50 bags, come back and hand it to the guy, sit on the rock. Because they didn't feel like walking across the street. At the end of the day, they give us like $30. But to a sixth grader, it was enough to buy clean socks. $30 is never going to be a lot of money. It was enough that I could buy my brother lunch and myself lunch. $30 would never be a lot of money. But it gave me the ability, to help my mom out with some things around the house. And so now I'm a de facto drug runner. I'm not a drug dealer. But that $30 made a huge difference in my life. And then I ran into another teacher, Miss Ellis, and she put me in the band. And she gave me a trumpet. I don't know why she gave me a trumpet, but she did. And by the end of middle school, I was a great trumpet player. I played every day for 3 years. And I was ready to go to the district high school with all the other kids. My sister went there. My favorite sister went there. So I have to go there. And Miss Ellis came to me. She said, you can't go to the district high school, Andre. I said, why? She said, you have a gift. What are you talking about, lady? I'm going to district high school. She said, no, you have a gift. You're a musician. And she made me go to a magnet school so I can be in the band. So she sends me to the magnet school for high school. I go to the band in the morning. It was all nerds. It was a room full of nerds. That's the best way to say it. And the kids looked at me like, what are you doing here? I pulled out my trumpet. I played it. They gave me a thumbs up. I'm in the band. So every morning I go to school, I'm in the band. When I finish band, in the afternoon, I hang out with the cool guys. We sell weed, we chase girls, do what cool guys do. After a couple of weeks, they're like, hey, Dre, what's that box you're carrying? But that's my trumpet. They're like, huh? I said, dude, we out here. What you doing with that stupid box? And they told me to get rid of it. And we went back and forth. They said, yo, dude, black kids don't play the trumpet. We're trying to be cool. You're trying to be a nerd. Beat it. Either us or the trumpet. So I gave up my trumpet. When I gave up my trumpet, because I didn't want to be alone, you can't give up your friends. So now I have nothing positive in my life. I love to tell you that nobody was there for me. It was a waste of time. It was like an awful scenario. Miss Ellis showed up. I'm saying Miss Oliver showed up. Mr. Bevilacqua showed up. Mr. Herman showed up. Miss Morris showed up. Mr. Lane. I can give you 1,000 teachers that tried to help me, but I couldn't receive the help because my mind was messed up.
And you were looking for community. And I know so much of your story is about community and belonging. And sometimes we just find it in the wrong place.
100%. So I gave up my trumpet. I gave up my life. Now I'm just drifting with no purpose. And black kid in the city with no purpose, no dad, it's not going to end up well.
Right.
It's not even a black thing. It's just kid in the city, 14, with no purpose, no direction. It's not going to end up well.
Look, I've said this a million times. First of all, I really appreciate so much of your story about how you realize that troubled teens, that color doesn't matter. People are people, and people have drama and bullshit and struggle in their life. I was somebody who came into recovery rooms and always felt really guilty because I heard so many people saying, well, I was abused, I was molested. And when I was, and I just said, what's my excuse? My excuse is I was a drug addict. Yeah, it's my biological predisposition. But I mentioned this because, I'm a horseback rider. And I've said it a million times, if it weren't for horses, I'd be dead. A million times over, right? We got to have something. Especially if we're like going in that direction. So you gave up all of your somethings, all of your ties that were keeping you grounded were gone at this point. And you're a troubled teen, and you don't see it that way. You're like, I'm the cool kid. I'm with
the cool guys.
You're with the cool guys. So you're on your way to becoming, king of the streets. And what happens next?
Well, I flunked I flunked the 9th grade. I flunked the 10th grade. I flunked the 11th grade. I was in every special needs program you can imagine. I was a problem for the school. They just waited for me to age out. And then One day I went to class late with a friend, and the teacher didn't feel like putting up with my stuff. So she said, beat it, Andre, not today. You're late, you got a friend and a radio, not today. So I'm hanging in the hallway, and the security guys in the hallway said, Andre, you can't be in the hallway today. I said, they said, the superintendent of schools coming. In the cities, when the superintendent of schools comes, they act right. The place is clean, the place is orderly, and as a troubled kid, when they tell you the superintendent's coming, you know what that means. They're not playing today. He said, well, go down to the gym. I said, well, gangs ran our gym. I said, I can't go to the gym. I got my radio. I'm gonna get robbed. It's not gonna work.
Gangs ran the gym in the high school?
Yeah. I mean, the local kids from the projects would come down and play basketball in the gym, hang out and sell weed to the high school kids. And nobody's gonna stop them. So that was just like, they ran the gym. And I was like, today's not a good gym day for me. So the guy said, go in the auditorium. There's a seminar. I'm not supposed to let you in there, but it's sit in the back and be quiet. I go into the auditorium. Me and my buddy sit in the back. And there's this guy down front with a bow tie on talking about, you can go to Italy. You can go to France. You can go to Japan. And he's talking about all these places you can go. I'm sitting in the back. I was good for like 3 minutes. I said, man, you're full of it, man. Ain't nobody going nowhere. Why are you down here selling dreams? And them white kids, them Asian kids, I don't know where you found them. They don't go to school here. He says, don't talk from the back. Come talk to my face. My buddy laughed. Oh, we called you out. Walked down to the front. He says, hey, man, where do you want to go? I never thought about going anywhere. He said, well, hey, take these forms, fill them out, make them say no, then complain. Don't complain first. He gave me the forms. We eventually leave. Fast forward like 5 months. I'm sitting in my room. It was a Saturday. The forms were in my drawer. It was the day they were supposed to be dropped off. So I filled them out real quick. I called my buddy, took our stolen car. This we rode around with. We rode to the drop-off site. It was for exchange student kids. So we go in. I get to the front door. There's this nice white lady with pearls at the front desk. She said, what are you doing here? I'm like, in Boston, you don't get white people all the time. So I'm like, nothing. I'm about to run. Because I know I'm a bad person. She's a nice lady. This isn't good for me. She said, no, what are you here for? I said, I'm kind of here for the program. She said, do you have an application? So I give it to her. She looks through it. She says, where's your essay? Oh, no essay. I'm trying to get away from this lady. She's nice as can be, but I'm trying to get out of here. I said, I don't have an essay. I'm gone. She said, no, come back. She sat me down. She got a piece of paper and a pen. She said, write your essay right now. I wrote the essay. I gave it back to her. And then she opened the door. She let me and my friend Derek go into the session. It was the most disheartening, heartbreaking thing I've ever seen. Moms, dads, grandmoms, little brothers and sisters, everybody dressed up, walking around as a family. I never had that. Didn't know that existed. So I'm kind of like shocked that you do this. This is what people do. I've never seen this in my life. Whole family outings. I've never seen my mother and father in the same room since before I was a baby. Since I was little, never seen. I can't remember them being in the same room from like 8 years old up because they couldn't get along. And so to see mom, dad, little brother, and they're going around interviewing with the different places for the exchange student program. So I go around, I interview with all the programs. When it was said and done, I left. They gave out scholarships 1 through 34. I got the first scholarship out of everybody in the Boston Public Schools. And it's just, before we went, I remember when the principal found out I was going. The principal found out I won the scholarship and I was going to represent Madison Park High School. He called me to the office and he's cussing me out. I mean, he's screaming at the top of his lungs, like, how did this happen? Who did I cheat? I did something. There's no way Andre Norman, who's flunked out 3 years in a row, won an exchange student scholarship over the rest of the school or the school district. He's having a fit. Then the bow tie guy came. He came in and he's yelling at the bow tie guy. This isn't right. No way. This guy's no good. He's a problem. He's the worst kid we have in our school. And I'm sitting there like, he's right. And when he finished yelling, Mr. Bowtie stood up. He said, I want to tell you a few things. 1, he's going. 2, it's not your decision. And 3, it was nice seeing you today. Have a nice day. And he stood up and he told the principal, to me, who was like the biggest thing I know as a kid, as a principal, and we walked out. When we got out into the hallway, he looked at me. And it was as if to say, I told you so. But it was really saying it was never quit. I'm not mad at Mr. Hennessy because he's responsible for thousands of kids. And the one kid is out of control you don't want to put them up as your best. But I had a guy at the county jail tell me one time, because he gave me a job at the county. I went to the county jail, got in trouble, and they gave me the best job in the jail. I asked the captain, why did you give me this job? He said, sometimes the worst can be the best if you just give them a chance. Thousands people rise or fall to the expectations that are placed on them. And for all of my life, the expectations were low, or the one or two times I would give an expectation that was high, I would go back into a low vibrational place and it just pulled me back down. And for me, that man stood up for me that day, sat with me, and I was deemed to have the most potential of any kid in the school district. And every company was fighting to get me to go on their tour. There was 34 different companies, and everybody wanted Andre. And I eventually picked a company, and I went to Paris, London, Amsterdam, and Belgium. Spent a summer abroad. And it was the greatest time of my life. It was 1984, so the Olympics were here. And I'm in London, and for that whole summer, I wasn't the black kid. I wasn't the N-word. I wasn't yo guy or he's. I was the American kid. I was called the American so many times that it just stuck. And I'd never been called the American. It was always those kids from the hood or those kids from the block. It was always something that identified me as less than human. And all summer, everybody identified me as the American. I was on tour with a bunch of rich white kids. And it was all cool. I met my best friend there, Morgan. And just to be called the American kid made me equal. And I embraced that by the time I left. And when I came back, it was a great outing, but I was so far down that track and I still didn't have guidance. I still went off the rails. Like 6 months later, I'm back in prison. I was 17 when I went.
Even though it seems that this incredible formative trip did not lead Andre down the right path, we now know that it maybe just planted a seed. Just as all those other people who showed up for him planted their seeds of hope. But when you're not ready, you're not ready.
I started out selling drugs, and my stepdad was a bank robber. My dad was a drug dealer. I became somebody who robbed drug dealers. I just came with my old thought, something, drug dealers got money, so let's not take it from them. I started robbing drug dealers, and it was just a thing that I did. And it's still against the law, as I found out. I didn't think it was, but I found out it was. And I got arrested for robbing a bunch of drug dealers. And putting a gun in anybody's face is not legal. So,
as it turns out.
As it turns out. I mean, I thought I was doing good.
Right. Like Robin
I guess I was supposed to give some of the money away. I could have been Robin Hood. I kept it all.
Right.
So I robbed a bunch of drug dealers, and they got me in court, and they started reading off sentences. And then 7 to 10 years, armed robbery. 9 to 10 years, I'm assault with a shotgun. 9 to 10 years, I'm assault with a shotgun. 10 years, robbery. 10 years, kidnapping. 15 to 20 years, armed home invasion. 15 to 20 years, armed carjacking. 5 years for the felon in possession of a firearm.
And the grand total went all the way up to 100 years.
They put me in a van, they drove me to prison, and dropped me off. I couldn't add it up all at the same time either. They said, you got time to figure it out. Go ahead. So I get to the prison. I'm 18 with a ton of numbers that I can't add up. And I'm sitting in Newman scared to death. I'm like, am I going to get raped? Am I going to get stabbed? Am I going to get bullied? I mean, what's going to happen to me? I've never been in maximum security prison in my life. You can't prepare for it. And I'm sitting there like, this is the world's worst thing. I can't say sorry. I can't take it back. I'm here. So my thought was, when I come out, I'm going to fight the first guy that comes near me. At least they're going to know I'm a fighter. I get to the unit. The guy says, yo, Dre. I drop my bedroll. I throw my hands up. I'm ready to fight. It was Melvin from the dummy class. And the third, he said, yo, Dre, what took you so long? We knew you was coming. I was like, huh? Like, oh, we knew you was coming. If nobody else was coming, we knew you were coming. And he told me, Melvin's there. Thaddeus is there. Everybody was there from the dummy class. All the guys from the dummy class. All the guys from the principal's office. All the guys from juvenile probation. All the guys were all there. It was like a giant reunion of everybody who quit on life. And that's where they dropped them. We committed crimes, but the one thing we had in common, we all quit on life. So I got in day one. I'm like, okay, it's not as scary because I know a couple people, The next morning, my second day there, you go to the caseworker's office. I sat with this nice lady. She looks at my file. She says, oh, well, you can get your GED. You can get certificates in this, certificates in that. You can learn how to drive a forklift, and you can go to college. Don't sit here and waste your time. Make it work for you. I go back to the unit. I call my mom. I'm like, yo, mom, this is great. They got school. They got college. They got certificates. This ain't as bad as we thought it was going to be. The next day, 1 o'clock, I'm at the gate, ready to go to school. Notebook, pencil, I'm ready. Then the homies walked over. Yo, where you going, Dre? We going to the yard. I'm going to school. Oh, he got the caseworker speech. That's what he mean. You can get a certificate. You can get a GED. You can go to college. What she didn't tell you is when those guys over there from that gang run in your cell and stop beating you up, she's not coming to help you. Those guys over there running your cell, stop beating you up, want to rape you, she's not going to help you. Them guys over there, when they want to come rob you and stab you and take all your stuff, she's not coming to help you. But if you get with us, we're going to make sure nobody ever puts a hand on you. And he held out a knife for me, like giving me a knife. So I'm looking at the knife. I'm looking at the notebook in my hand. I threw the notebook in the trash. I grabbed the knife and I went to the yard and I joined the gang that day. I don't want to be raped. I don't want to be robbed. I don't want to be assaulted. I don't want to be beat up. I don't want to be extorted. And if being with them was going to ensure that that didn't happen, then that's what I did. And for the next 6 years, I gangbanged as hard as I could. I wasn't a gang member prior. I was just a kid from the neighborhood. But now I'm in and I'm all in. And for the next 6 years, I fought every day. Had battles with people in the yard. I've assaulted people. I mean, every day is just gang life. And it's 2,000 people in one building. All are traumatized. And everybody triggers everybody else. It was like, whatever your trigger was, it was there. And everybody's triggering everybody. And so it's just constant conflict all day. And for 6 years, I got kicked out of the state of Massachusetts, where I'm from. I got sent to Pennsylvania. I watched so much horrific stuff in the penitentiary in Pennsylvania. I got shipped to 9 different states for being violent and incorrigible. And after they kicked me out of the federal system and sent me back to the state, they kept loaning me to different prison systems. And I wake up one day in solitary confinement with 10 more years added to my sentence because I hurt
Over fighting?
Stabbing.
Got it.
Yeah. I had a ton of fights. I tried to kill some people because that's what you do in jail.
Right.
And there was no justification. I was dead wrong. But I'm sitting, they took me back to court. They gave me another 5 years for each assault. I'm in solitary confinement for 2.5 years. 10 years added to my sentence. And the craziest part about it, I thought I was winning. But we justify and compound our situations by telling ourselves we're winning. And sitting in solitary confinement 24 hours a day in a cell by myself for the next 2 years, I convinced myself that somehow I'm winning. And after a year and a half in solitary, I woke up and I realized something. I'm the king of nowhere. This isn't winning. And I realized that I was losing and losing horribly. And I said, I need to make a change. I came up with a concept. I want to be successful. In my mind, successful people come from college. So I go home, go to college, and I'll be successful. I came out to my friend group, you call it my gang, and I told them, yo, fellas, I figured it out. I said, I'm going home. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to be successful. And everybody told me I couldn't do it. Dre, you can't do that. You can't read. You're a psychopath. You're the gang leader. You're this, you're that. You're in the hole for trying to kill people. Man, you're a maniac. You're this, you're that. I heard them, but after like the 5th person chimed in, I started hearing my friends from the 9th grade who stole my trumpet. I said, I've seen this movie before, and I know how it ended. It ended with me here. So I negated them. I went back in my cell. I looked in the mirror. I said, what's inside of me that's stopping this dream from happening? And I made a list of all the things. I'm black. I don't read well. I'm violent. I'm angry. I got a lot of time. I'm frustrated. I got a bad family. I just made the list. I started working on it. Went back to school, got my GED. I started going to anger management programs. I started going to counseling. I stopped selling drugs in the yard. I stopped fighting every day. I got rid of my weapons. And I started being respectful, regardless of who I was talking to. And I started just asking for help instead of pretending like I knew. And I said, I'm going to change starting today. It took me 8 years. Taught myself the law. Overturned my case on appeal. gave the time back. I would have went home that day, but I picked up 2 attempted murder charges in prison, so I had to finish those. And it took me 8 years from the time I said I had enough to the time I walked out of prison. The thing I tell people is, you decide your rock bottom. You can always go low, and you can always go higher. It's just a decision. You decide your rock bottom. I decided that day, and that cell was my rock bottom.
Emerging out of solitary confinement, Andre was determined to climb out of his rock bottom with a renewed sense of purpose.
The way I made it happen was, first I visualized my plan. Then I wrote it down. Then I wrote down everything in my way. I wrote down all my shortcomings. And I started working on them one at a time. It took me 8 years to go from vision to execution. Step one, that's just to get out. That wasn't to get to Harvard. It took me 8 years just to get out. I had to work every day for 8 years just to get out of prison. I had to learn how to read, learn how to focus, learn how to say no, learn how not to get angry, learn how not to hit people. I had to learn a lot of stuff about me, about my siblings. I used to go to NA and AA. They say, why? I said, because everybody I know does drugs. I don't, but everybody I have to communicate with does. I need to understand how to communicate with people who do drugs and who drink. I went to all these programs that had technically nothing to do with me, but everything to do with my surroundings. If you want to know how somebody's acting or why they're acting a certain way, go look at the environment they came out of. Not the color or the size of the house, not the shape or the make of the car. Look at their seat in the car. Look at their place in the house. What does their ecosystem look like? Because that's what produces the person. And if it's ugly for them, then they're going to become ugly people. So you can live in a big house and have an ugly experience.
Yeah.
So I learned that every single day is a decision to be made. I wasn't an addict, but I was addicted to bad behaviors. So every day I had to make a conscious decision to do better. And if this is where I have to do it, then I'm going to do it here.
Even in the best of circumstances, working towards a goal is an uphill climb. But imagine what it must be like trying to reach for something good while surrounded by so many who've already given up, resigned themselves to a bleak existence. Imagine waking every day to constant violence and trying to stay positive. But you know what they say about the law of attraction? When you start putting out positive comes back to you. Andre started encountering mentors who really helped expand his consciousness.
I love every last one of my mentors. When I started changing my life and I started not hurting people, helping people, being the right thing, I ended up in a dorm. I'm in a dorm at a place, and there was this tall white guy getting bullied. He was kind of slow, for the lack of a better term, but they don't care. When you get sent to prison, they just throw you in there. So this is big 6'7" white guy, whatever he was, and again, it's more fun picking on a big guy than a little guy. And even though he was challenged, but they didn't care. He was still bullying a big guy. So it's like 3 or 4 guys bothering this one guy. And I made him stop. I never liked bullies. So I'm like, yo, leave him alone. Yo, Dre, nah, man, we catching wreck. I said, not today. I said, leave him alone. I'm still that guy. So they leave the guy alone, they walk away. The guy comes over, introduces himself to me, and he said, thank you. His name was Bob. I said, well, I'm Andre. He said, well, thank you, because some guy's been bothering me. I said, don't worry about it. It won't bother you no more. So he would, every now and again, I never noticed him before that time. He would come in the unit the next day. He says, hi, Andre. I said, hi, Bob. Then eventually we moved out of that unit. He lived in one unit. I lived in another. And every so often we crossed paths. And he would always say, hi, Andre. I say, hi, Bob. He didn't know I was a second ranking gang member on the yard. He had no understanding that I really controlled this whole place. He didn't know where he was probably half the time. But he would always say hi to me. Then one day I'm in the program building. I'm walking by a room. I look in. I see Bob sitting down. So I said, Bob always says hi to me. Let me go say hi to Bob. So I walk into the room. I say, hi, Bob. He says, hi, Andre. I said, well, who are you sitting with? He was saying, oh, this is my friend, Natan. I said, hi, Natan. He says, hi, Andre. I said, what are you doing? He said, we're studying. And Natan just had this vibe about him. I said, well, what are you studying? He said, we study life. I said, well, can I study with you? He said, sure you can. Here's a chair. And I sat out. and he's he's telling stories. He's a storyteller. He's telling stories. I love stories. It was probably like 3 weeks ago in the classes with Bob and Natan, and somebody says, Dre, why are you going to Jewish services? So what are you talking about? He said, you're going to Jewish services. Since when did you become Jewish? I don't go to Jewish services. He says, yes, you do. I said, no, I don't. He says, every Wednesday night, those are Jewish. I said, no, it's me, Bob, and Natan sitting in the room telling stories. What are you talking about? He said, those are Jewish services. So I go back to class on Wednesday. Then I notice then the PCS on his head. And I didn't know what tefillin was. There's nobody in my hood that wears tefillin. So I figured that's just his shirt. He wears a black suit every week. Who am I to judge? I wear the same outfit every week. I got an orange jumpsuit, you got a black suit. What's the big deal? So I started noticing the yarmulke, the tefillin, the black suit, and the white shirt. Then I asked him, I said, yo, are you Jewish? He said, yeah. I didn't know what that meant. The one thing I did know about being Jewish, my best friend from the exchange student program, Morgan Zelkin, was Jewish. And I didn't know what it meant then. So I'm like, yo, Morgan's my people, you're my people, let's rock out. I kept going to Jewish services. And I would sit with Natan every Wednesday, and he would tell the most awesome stories. But the thing Natan actually did for me was he taught me how to be human. He said, Andre, accountability, responsibility, servanthood, I'm saying teshuvah, turning your life around, turning things around for you and others. And he would just teach me lessons every Wednesday. And he threw a story. And we never pulled out what they say 5 books, and we never pulled out any Bibles, we never pulled out any books. He would just tell stories. That was our services every Wednesday. And it was the most phenomenal stories I've ever met. And probably like a year and a half after I met him, I ended up going to a program. I got saved and I joined the church. And I'm in the church now. And the guys came to me and said, Andre. Then they were like, yo, Dre, you can't hang out with the rabbi anymore. I said, why? They said, he won't profess Christ and he's not going to heaven. He's going to hell. So you can't hang out with him anymore. I said, hold up, man. I said, yeah, go. I let that one go. And they're like, and they started quoting scripture to me. And I said, let me explain something to you. Wherever that man sits for eternity, it'd be an honor to sit next to him. And as far as you lames, you love Jesus, I can get you there today. If that's what you want. You love Jesus so much you want to meet him today. Because I can get you there. They're like, no, Dre, we're sorry. I said, don't you ever try to pick my friends. Because you've been in this Bible thing 3 months, 3 years longer than me doesn't make you my boss. Last I checked, there are no bosses in this thing. But so often people get into something ahead of you and they think they're like a little more knowledge, they become your boss. Like, dude, I said, don't forget who I am and what I am. And because you're ahead of me in this classroom doesn't mean you're ahead of me. And you don't pick my friends. Natan is my friend from that day to this. And he's my guy. I went to him when I was getting married. He met my fiance. He's met my son. He's been my advisor since 1994, 95. I trust in him 100% as a man. And he's never given me in the wrong direction in any capacity.
After finally earning back his freedom, Andre made it his mission to make a difference by helping others find their right path. One of his biggest challenges came when, on August 9th, 2014, in Ferguson, Missouri, a Black teenager, Michael Brown, was shot and killed by a white police officer who was not indicted for the shooting.
There is growing outrage tonight after an unarmed African-American teenager was shot and killed by police in the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson, Missouri. But there are conflicting reports about what led up to the shooting. NBC's John Yang has the details.
I'm all over the world doing outreach at this point. And then Ferguson, Missouri happened. And the entire world is engulfed in Black Lives Matter, protests in the street. And my mentors from Missouri called me and said, Andre, we need you to come down here to Ferguson. So I go to Ferguson. I get with my mentors, Dave Spence, Dan Curran, John Rulin, Rusty Keeley, and John O'Leary. What happened is I went to St. Louis probably 2 years before Ferguson happened. And I was working with the Spence family. I was working with a guy named Keith Alpo, who's one of my favorite people on the planet. And we're doing community events We're running programs at the high school, Roosevelt High School. My friends, Dave and Susie Spence, phenomenal people. We're working at a local high school to try to make it better. When I came to town, Susie said, you're going to work with us. We're going to team up. We're going to make the school better together. You're the missing piece. So I teamed up with Susie, and If anybody knows Susie, you roll. So we roll into the school, and we're there for like 10 months working on the school. And it's me and Susie shoulder to shoulder, and Dave would pop in, but it's me and Susie shoulder to shoulder. I live with them. They had money's not their problem. They could have put me in a hotel. They had an extra house. They could have put me. I literally lived in the house with them and their family. That's why they're family to me now, because they didn't put me down the street. And I stayed with Susie shoulder to shoulder, and we turned the school around. Met a lot of people along the way. Then I left. About 8 months later, Ferguson happens. Michael Brown dies. The whole city goes up in turmoil. The whole region's on fire. And my friends who had met me during my time at Ferguson, Roosevelt, Andre, can you come back down here? We need your help. And the whole thing's on CNN every day. So eventually I came back down, and I went back and I got Dave. I went and I got Dan. I went and got all my friends and said, we're going to do this together. And we went out to the streets at 2 o'clock in the morning, not 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We went and talked to gang members and to protest leaders and the people who were in the community, activists. And we listened to them. We didn't try to placate or redirect them. And then with the connections from Dave Spence and the rest, we were able to reach out to the mayor. We were able to reach the police chief. And we were able to bridge the gap. Instead of people talking at each other, we sat these people in the room, help facilitate conversations so they can talk to each other. And once that relationship was built, then everything turned around.
When word of Andre's good work and his reputation starts to spread, he gets an unexpected opportunity that was a dream come true.
I get a phone call from a guy named Dr. Charles Ogletree. He says, Andre, we've been watching, and we want you to be on our staff. We want to partner with you with the work that you're doing. And so I flew to Harvard. I did a seminar there with all the Ferguson people, the mayor of Ferguson, the police chief, all the protesters. And they put me on staff at the law school in the program that does community engagement. They gave me an email. They gave me a shared desk. I'll say it like that. I didn't have my own office. I had a shared desk in a community room, but there was a space for me there. It wasn't a chair with my name on it, but there was a chair for me there. And it was one of the proudest moments of my life to say, I made it. And I went to my mom. I said, Mom, I'm here. The homies called me from prison. Yo, Dre, what's up? What's popping? I said, I'm at Harvard. And they invited me in. What's your Harvard? Where do you want to be? They said, you made it? I said, yeah, we made it. Now, where do you want to go? They're like, nah, you really there? I said, dude, I'm really here. And you can be where you want to be. You had excuses that you never saw success before, you never saw an opportunity before, nobody ever looked like you or talked like you before made it. That's out the window now. My main job is to remove excuses from people's lives. So I've been encouraging, it started out with prisoners because that's where I was comfortable. Then it went to black boys because that's where I was comfortable. And the people in the inner city because that's where I was comfortable. And I started working with Spanish kids because that's where I was comfortable. And they asked me to go help white kids. Some white kids ain't got no problems. White kids drink, they smoke, they cut their wrists, they disrespect their parents, they run away. I didn't know white kids did all this stuff. I grew up watching Leave It to Beaver, Partridge Family, Brady Bunch. Those kids never had a problem at the end of the half hour. So to see white kids in such dire straits just blew my mind. I'm like, this is not what they put on TV about white kids. 90210, those kids had a phenomenal life. I mean, who wouldn't want their life? But the kids at these local high schools were struggling. Being 15 is hard, no matter what you look like or where you come from. And I was brainwashed to believe that somehow the TV represented everybody's real life. And it's like other people brainwashed to think, hey, black people are always what you see on the news at 6 o'clock. And in TV, media plays a huge role in impacting people. So my thing is simple. If you call my phone, I'll show up.
But being a mentor and helping others can be consuming. And in time, Andre was running on fumes. He desperately needed a break, but no one anticipated where he would pivot.
I'm speaking, training, flying around the world, helping people. There's a group called YPO, which a lot of my friends are in. I'm the highest rated speaker on YPO history. If there's any other YPO resource wants to challenge that, we can pull the books. I got more 10s than anybody. And I didn't get 10s because I had the best speech. When I went to Any YPO event I would do, I might spend 7 days in the city, an hour on stage, and 6 days in the community. So no other speaker was doing 5, 6, 7 days on the ground helping the community. I just got to a point I got burnt out because I'm going city after city after city after city. I'm giving. And in my mind, I wasn't getting anything but money. So I got to a point I said, forget this. I tap out. I quit. I moved to Atlanta. I started selling real estate. If Grant Cardone can sell real estate, I can sell real estate. I'm at least as good as talking as Grant. So I'm like, I'm going to be the black version of Grant Cardone. Let's go. And I'm in Atlanta and I'm learning, I'm doing real estate. And my people from St. Louis called me. They said, Dre, what are you doing? Selling real estate. They said, that's not what you do. I said, it is now. They called me back to St. Louis and they sat me down. Rusty Keeley led the charge and he put 5 other people in the room. Dave Spence, who I know love, John Rulin, God bless me, just passed, John O'Leary, Dan Curran, and Keith Alper. My 5, 6 top guys in my life. And they said, you're not selling real estate. You're going to go help people. I said, man, I'm burnt. They said, we're going to unburn you. And we're going to put you back on the horse. This is the horse that you ride. They didn't let me tap out to go chase money. They put me back on the horse. They put me back on my path. They collectively, the 6 of them, have encouraged and pushed me through back to helping people again. And I had a bad stretch, and I said, I'm done. They said, no, you're not. It's just a bad stretch. And that's what mentors will do for you.
What would you say to someone out there who's just having a bad stretch right now?
It's how life works. Nobody wins it. Nobody bats 1,000. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good weeks. You're going to have bad weeks. You're going to have phenomenal birthdays. You're going to have birthdays that are horrible. Sometimes it'll rain at a wedding. Sometimes it'll snow or sleet. You can't predict the weather. You can't predict your life. And you just have to find a way to make rainy days fun. I actually like the rain. If you said, Dre, what is your favorite weather? I say warm rain. Because when I was a kid, somebody's where they come from. When I was a kid, I had a thing called croup. It was some kind of thing around breathe. It was some kind of congestion thing. And they took me as a kid and they put me in this tent. And it was like misty air would come in to help me breathe. And it was like fun. I mean, this is better than the refrigerator box. This is better than the refrigerator box. Water spurting out at me. And I'm in here, they give me ice cream and they give me candy and they give me stuff. I'm like, this is phenomenal. So for me, sitting in that tent for 5 days or whatever it was the greatest time ever. So I love warm rain because that's why I sat in warm, misty air for like 5 days. So now warm rain is my favorite thing over sunshine.
Yeah.
Everybody has a reason why they love what they love and why they don't what they don't. Everybody shares from who they are, but the key thing is you have to know who you are. They're really saying to you, hey, help me. And this is exactly where I am. I have a confidence problem. I have an imposter syndrome problem. I have an addiction problem. I have an esteem problem. I have a trauma problem. So if you learn to listen, when people come up to me, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what you're. And I start speaking to them about them. Because my podcast or my life doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, your life means more to you than mine. So let me help you with yours.
And with regards to making those hard decisions, even with the best of intentions, sometimes things go horribly wrong.
I was at Genius Network with Joe Polish, and I'm doing interventions at the meeting for people. And somebody said, hey, there's a father out in California. His son is getting high. He's been getting high for years. Can you call and have a conversation with him? So I called the dad. I said, hey, man, how you doing? I'm Andre. I'm a friend of Joe. Heard that your son is on drugs. Can you tell me something about it? Oh, he's been doing it for years, in and out of detox. And now we paid for the best rehabs. We sent him to Hawaii, to the moon, to Utah. He just keeps going back to doing drugs, and we can't stop him. And he's been missing for like 5 days. I said, how about this? This meeting ends Friday, 3 o'clock. I'll jump on a plane. I'll fly out to you in California, and I'll go find him. He says, well, we live in a nice community. We live in a really nice community, and there's not people looking like you run around here. I said, it's not about me, it's about him. He said, well, you don't know my son. I said, it's not about me, it's about him. He said, well, you're a gang member, former gang member. My son is a privileged kid, and you're black, he's white, and he came up with every reasoning for why I wasn't the guy to help him. I said, listen, I'll get on a plane, I'll fly to California, I'll find your son and put him in rehab. But what is it going to cost me? It's not going to cost you anything. You just got to pay for the rehab. He said, well, how does that work? I said, well, I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going to fly to California. I'm going to get off. I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to sit with you and your wife, have a conversation. I'm going to go find your son. He said, but you've never been in this community before. I said, it's okay. I will find your son. He couldn't make it make sense. Black guy, gang member, East Coast, rich kid, privileged white kid. This doesn't work. I've already paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in rehab. There's no way you're going to do this. I've spent money with the professionals, and here you come. So he said, can we do it next week? I said, dude, I live in Atlanta. I'm in Phoenix. You're in California. You're on a 40-minute flight from me. Please don't make me go all the way back east when I'm already here. Can we do it next week? Can we do it next week? Finally, I just gave in. You know something? I don't force stuff. I said, we'll do it next week. I'm kind of disturbed. I have to fly all the 4 hours east, fly 6 hours back west, and I can just do it now. That was Friday. Monday, I get a call. The kid OD'd on Father's Day. Sunday was Father's Day. He OD'd on Father's Day. And the moral is next week might never come. And don't judge the help. Had I told him I need a first class ticket, I need a room at the Four Seasons, I need this kind of car, I need this and this is what's going to cost, he would have understood that. That's the language that he speaks. Spreadsheet. First class ticket, black car pickup, room at the Hilton, this, I'm going to eat dinner first. He needed an itinerary. I couldn't provide an itinerary. I couldn't provide receipts. This is what he wanted it to make money sense. And it didn't make money sense. Free, random guy in my community, how's this going to work? And he couldn't make it make sense, which is why he kicked it back. And he kicked it back 4 days too far.
Jesus.
So not only did he lose his son, now he's saying, most people like seeing me online because I do good work. When that man sees me online, it might bother him because he said, that guy tried to come help me and my son. And I told him no. Mm-hmm. So he has to live with, I told the help no.
Fortunately, Andre's help has been impactful in many other instances. One, in that very same prison where he once served his sentence.
Carol Michi, who was a former commissioner of corrections for the state of Massachusetts, she had a ton of situations. There's no shortage of problems in prison. She reached out to me a couple years ago and said, Andre, we need you to come home. And they literally gave me a job, a contract / job. And they sent me back to the prison I came out of and said, make a difference. And she took some pushback because I had attempted murders in that prison. I had all kinds of assaults in there. I was a maniac. And she put me back in there. And she said, he is the man for the job. He's changed his life. He's walked the walk. He is the ideal testimony to these people. We're not. Nobody wants to be a prison guard that's in prison. Nobody wants to be the commissioner who's in prison. They want to be him. He's become successful. He's become positive. He's become a great dad, a great son. They want to be him. They don't want to be us. So let's put him in there. Let his presence speak. And we'll get the branding of, hey, we made it happen. So they get acknowledgement. I say, hey, I got in here because of her, not because of me. I did the work, but she opened the door. There's a guy down in South Carolina. His name is Brian Sterling. He brought me into South Carolina and said, Andre, I made a pledge to make these people better. And I need your help to do it. And then the next thing he said to me after he sent me to the prison is there any way we can stop them from coming versus stop them from coming back? And the director of prisons in South Carolina would send me to high schools, to middle schools, to PAL leagues, to talk to kids who have never been to prison at 12, 13, 14. He said, Andre, I not only want them not to come back, I want them not to come. And most prison programs are all about the guys inside. Director Sterling was about the kids who had never been there. And they're just people who care. Joe Paulus at Genius Network, he got me and said, Andre, let's go make the world a better place. And he pays me to just go make people happy and get people out of bad spaces and get them into treatment, get them off the edge. And he doesn't get a return, but the value he gets is endless.
What I love is that you use the same tactics to help people on death row as you do to help a CEO. And that just tells me so much about humans at the end of the day.
I took a group of white Republican men in Arkansas to death row, the YPO chapter. And I told them, go encourage those guys. They said, man, they're on death row and we're kind of Republicans, so we voted for it. And I showed them how to have the conversation with men on death row. I said, your politics are your own. This is not about you. It's about them. It's about the message. And I showed them how to have a conversation with people sentenced to die. And once they learn how to have those conversations, I said, now what conversations can't you have? What's going to come through your business door tomorrow that you can't have a conversation with? I just showed you have to have what you believe the most hardest conversation you could ever imagine. And you did phenomenal. And if you can talk a man in the death row and they're smiling, the next guy that comes through your front door is a layup. And we teach how to actually move forward. And the skills that I learned in jail, how to read people, CEOs around the world bring me in to teach them on how to read people because they can't see it coming. I got a thing called get it right or die. If I don't figure you out in 30 seconds, I'm probably going to be dead. So I learned how to figure people out really, really fast. And I teach that. Communicating between the gangs. As a prison boss, I got the Italians, I got the Irish, I got the Black, I got the Latinos, I got these guys. I got to communicate and network between all these and mediate. My mediation skills are on a whole nother level because, again, get it right or die. Most of them have never been in get it right or die mode. If I don't get it right, I got my escape package. They'll give me this comp plan, and I go get another job in 6 months. Right. No, there's no second job to boss of a prison. It's called you're in the hospital with knife wounds in your chest. See, the people who want to be depressed, they don't appreciate that they got 10, 20, 30, 40 years left. They're making it 1 or 2, 3 hours. You have decades left in front of you, but it's like you can't see beyond the 2 steps where you are. So I say to the people who are struggling, who are stressed out, who are just think people forgot about them, call us. We're right here. This entire podcast is for you. It's not for the people down the street. It's not for the cool people. It's not for other folks. It is for you. So your excuse to say nobody cares is now BS. Why you say BS? I'm supposed to be depressed. Be nice to me. Shut up. Come on. Shut up. I ain't got time for, you're supposed to be nice to me. Politically correct chapter says you have to be nice to me because I'm depressed. Shut up. Let's go. Get in the car. Let's go. Call us up. We'll come pick you up. We'll go to lunch. And I'm not going to no vegan restaurant. Come on. We're going to get some pizza. So, but Dre, I got to eat vegan because I got to be healthy inside. Shut up. Get in the car. We're going to the pizza shop. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. I got time for political correctness or the list of things that your last Sherman told you you're supposed to be doing. Let's go be happy. Let's go be happy. I've lived under the jail. I've lived on top of the jail. I much rather prefer on top of the jail. I've been extremely poor. You know what I'm saying? Walking to school with dirty socks on. I got Lululemon, everything. I prefer Lululemon. So to the people who are listening, it's a choice. I sat in prison and I made a choice to be the best person I could be. And I decided I want to be the best person I could be. It was a choice. And you can do that every single day. You are not, if you can hear us, then you're not alone. If you can actually hear us, then you're not alone. That means you've made the connection. We've connected to you. Now it's time for you to connect back to us. So hit the link, send an email, and say you connected to me, and y'all said if I connect back that you will hear me, and we will. So nobody cares. You've connected. Now you got to do your part. You can send me an email, but when you send me an email, you have to say, "I saw you on the podcast," and name the podcast. Otherwise, I get like 100 emails a day, and I won't know you. You get special treatment if they come from here.
I love it.
Front of the line, baby.
You heard it here first. You tell Andre that you heard him on the Gratitudeology podcast, and he'll take care of you.
Just call me. I'll be at the front door.
Anyone in need of some guidance can reach out to Andre through his website, andrenorman.com. You can also find him on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram under his name, Andre Norman. And for those who want to take an even deeper dive into his story, you should pick up his book, Ambassador of Hope, Turning Poverty and Prison into a Purpose-Driven Life, chronicling his own search for the very heart of gratitude. By sharing his story, he hopes to provide inspiration for everyone else to find their own purpose, their own way to gratitude. That's all for today. Remember, if you like what you heard, if it impacted you in any way, and if you think it's a message other people in your life might like to hear, I'd be so grateful if you'd give me 5 stars, leave a quick little comment. Those things really help. And share this podcast with your friends, either on social media or just word of mouth. I'm on a mission for us all to help each other focus on expanding our attention towards what's good in the world rather than focusing on what's bad, one person at a time. If we all did that, even to our own little sphere of influence, the world has the potential to be a much more radically awesome place. Stick with me, friends. I've got your back. We're in this together, and it's a great day to see the greatness in the day. See you next time. The Gratitudeology podcast is written, executive produced, and hosted by me, Jamie Hess. Sound design and studio production by Gotham Production Studios. Our theme song is Maze by Hills, sung by Nadia Ali. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Gratitudeology.
Set us down.